COVID-19 brought with it, as a crisis almost always does, a lot of creativity. And one of my personal creative favorites was an ad campaign on the radio that went something like this. It started with a narrator. Sounds of the old world. And then the narrator would continue. In 2019, this was the sound of someone getting up to use the restroom at a ball game. And then you'd hear the crowd, and then this voice. Oh, excuse me, pardon me, I'm so sorry, just trying to squeeze by here. Oh, love your shirt. Oh, I'll be out of your way in just a moment. And then the narrator again. This has been Sounds of the Old World. 2019. The old world. Sometimes ads are so good you don't even remember what they're selling. But the idea behind this ad, it was a kind of hunger. A hunger for normal life. Getting up to use the bathroom at a game, a complete pain, but not being able to go to a game, or a concert, or a movie, or friends, or school, or church, or just a freaking grandma's? Just awful. We have lived through a period of time when we have been so hungry for so many things. And this ad campaign took advantage of that and at least let us laugh about it. Think of the things you've been hungry for. Things that are finally perhaps starting to become available. Restaurants. To sit and eat. To have someone nice come over and say, what would you like? To have someone else do the dishes after the meal. To not have to cook. Friends, family. To finally be able to get to see, actually see everyone's smiling face. To sit at a table, tell stories of the week, talk, laugh about memories. You younger folks, to eat lunch at school without distancing. You remember that? All crowded around a table, dangerously breathing each other's air, giggling. Date nights. The movies. Hugs. A full church. A full church united in song. The preschool mosh pit of Vacation Bible School. The hysterical laughter coming from senior high supper club. The joy of a Grinchy Christmas party in youth group. The laughter around a table gathered for Bible study. The Timbers lunch. The joy of that Timbers lunch when the Donegal rhythm singers come for a visit. Human contact. Human contact. When you think about it, we haven't just been hungering for normal life. We have been hungering for life. For the things we can do. The interactions we can have. The joys we can savor while we are still, pardon the expression, on this side of the grass. We have hungered to be alive. And into this day comes a lesson which you probably assumed was the feeding of the 5,000, and that's a good assumption. The feeding of the 5,000 is the only miracle of Jesus that's in all four Gospels. But it's not that story. This miracle is actually the feeding of the 4,000, and it comes after the feeding of the 5,000 in the Gospel of Mark. So, what's the big deal? Well, it could be a retelling of that earlier event. We have to remember Mark was dealing with a lot of oral tradition, and there were probably a number of stories floating around about Jesus feeding masses of people. Aside from the resurrection, this was perhaps the most famous story of Jesus. But I think the bigger deal is this. The people have been hungry. First, they've been listening to Jesus for 3 days. 3 days. Because they're so spiritually hungry. And now, they've kind of forgotten themselves out there, and they are getting dangerously physically hungry. And they need something to eat. And maybe because they've all been through this before, Jesus doesn't bother with a line he says to the disciples in the feeding of the 5,000. A line that for me brings these stories into sharp focus in our lives. And the line is, you give them something to eat. You disciples, get on it, address the hunger, give them something to eat. And somehow, 7 measly loaves become enough. We are hungry. Hungry for life to get back to normal. I'll admit it, last week when we broke into song at 9 a.m. indoors, I got choked up. As I shook hands with and hugged some of our graduates at the 11 o'clock service, kids I've largely held at the font, played with, sang with over the years, took on trips with Michelle, I got choked up. And as I watched you out there at 11, gathered out there, saw people I'm used to seeing every week, but that I've been deprived of seeing for 14 months, I got choked up. But I also felt filled. But satisfying as that was, it's not enough. We are hungry. Our neighbors are hungry. This church is hungry. And I believe that just as Jesus looks at his disciples in this story and greets them with a task, we have a task before us. You give them something to eat. Jesus doesn't do it all. He hands the loaves to the disciples and says, you have something to do. Before COVID-19, we would sometimes talk as a staff about how overwhelmed people were, running from place to place, sometimes feeling like they were on that hamster wheel that could throw you. And we wished there was a way to slow everyone down. Slow us all down so we could get back to what was truly important, to what is truly important. Well, we got slowed down, didn't we? Even though I know for a lot of us, work and family life just got harder. We've had a reset. And now as we hunger for a return to so many things we missed, I just want to say, if we want to solve our hunger, if we want to love our neighbors as ourselves and cure this hunger, it is not going to be all up to God. Jesus is standing before us and saying, do something. Give them something to eat. We have work ahead of us. It's joyous work, but it still has to be done. We have kids to teach, neighbors to support, friends to heal, teams to coach, scouts to lead, theaters crying out for song, worship that will fill our hungry souls, but we need to do our part. We need to give to each other the gift of each other. Isn't that what we've really been missing? I cannot tell you, in my own life, how many times I just wanted to sit back and take a breath and not do something that needed doing. Times I felt 7 loaves short when I just wanted to worry about me. And sometimes, yeah, worrying about me is okay, even appropriate. But while I felt that way countless times, I don't think I can count on more than one hand the number of times when I got my butt out of my chair and did something for my brother or my sister or for children or for some stray dog. When I got my butt out of my chair to address someone's hunger, be it physical, emotional, or relational, and not been filled. Doing the thing I didn't want to do, but that God wanted me to do, filled me. You know, there's going to be a honeymoon whenever we get back to some semblance, and may it be soon, of normal. But life's going to slip back to where it was, little by little. And we need to ask, what's going to be guiding us? What's going to be there for our kids? What's going to be there when friends are in need? What's going to be there when a new crisis comes? And I can tell you this, whatever's going to be there to help, to sustain, to love, won't be the same if we are not heeding the call of God. Jesus is standing before us, ready to help, but he's also saying we have a part. He's saying, you give them something to eat. That something is a little different for each of us, but the call is for each of us. May we all heed that call.